What about using Substack as a podcast hosting platform, or even just a place to house your podcast episodes? This was a conversation that I recently had with a group of C-suite level women. And so I wanted to share some insights that I got, as well as the things that I shared with them. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alicia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hey friends, it's Alicia. This episode is going to be a little different. It might feel a little scattered, and it's just because I'm still collecting all of my thoughts around this topic, but it is something that I definitely wanted to address here. So often as podcasters, we are creating content and we're not getting any type of feedback. Now, Substack has created a way to mitigate a little bit of that, which I love. I love if I can get instant feedback for something, I'm kind of interested in it. So this is something that I definitely wanted to talk about. And I was hesitant to talk about Substack because previously, I want to say 4-6 months ago, something like that, time is elusive. I remember when Substack first came out with their podcast hosting platform, and I looked into it, and they didn't have anything for people who already had podcasts. So my thought was, nope, this one's not for me. We'll look into it in a little bit. Well, I revisited it recently for this conversation with these C-suite level women to create some clips of how they could use it to launch their podcast if they wanted to go the Substack route. And I think that it's a great option for people who want to be writing, who want to utilize Substack's platform. And for some context, I host part of my community on Substack for We Read Smut, which is my side project. And at the time of this recording, I started it in January of 2025, and I have 15,000 subscribers and 18,000 followers. I don't know how that happened, but I do. And I've been thinking about ways that I could utilize it for my podcast, whether that's with early access to episodes for paid subscribers, or having a chat where people can ask questions or they can engage with future guests. I'm also planning on hosting an event on Substack later this year for this specific community. Right? There's so many different things that I'm really trying to think about ways that I could utilize Substack in strategic ways since I have that audience over there. Well, when I was looking through to figure out what a new podcast would look like on Substack, I noticed that they had a setting for existing podcasts now. And I thought, let's check this out. But before we get into that, I want you to understand why someone might choose to use Substack over some of the other hosting platforms. First and foremost, I do want to note that Substack is not just a podcast hosting platform. And sometimes when a place tries to be everything to everyone, they can miss the mark. But Substack seems to be doing pretty good. As of a report that came out in June 2026, Substack as a hosting platform for indie podcasters is in the top 10 choices for usability and for growth. So it's definitely an option. Number 1 is Buzzsprout. Go back and listen to the episode I did with Jordan from Buzzsprout. I've been with Buzzsprout for my entire podcasting career, and I absolutely love them, and I love what they're doing, and I love how they're creating just incredible accessibility from the start for their podcasts. That said, back to Substack. With a regular podcast hosting platform, you would just put your podcast out there. It goes to the different platforms, and you typically don't get instant feedback. Now, if you wanted instant feedback, you could use something like the send me a text link on Buzzsprout. That is an option. But for the most part, it is not easy to do. Substack is kind of flipping that, where you can have all of your content, and especially if you're new in the thought leadership space, Substack is a really good option, especially if you want to get away from the algorithm that is LinkedIn or Instagram, and you want to be able to have a space to create more content. Your homepage could be your website. Your articles could be your blog. You can have links out if you want people to work with you. And now you have the option of having a podcast hosted right there. It makes it really simple, but also you can engage with your audience. You can get their emails, which is really important, especially if you're wanting to communicate with them outside of these platforms. That's why I think that Substack is doing something that's very unique and different and potentially a game changer for podcasters. Now, am I going to be switching my hosting platform over to Substack? No, not going to happen. But there are options for people who already have podcasts, and we'll get into those again shortly. Let's talk features first. So when you have your podcast hosted on Substack, you do have the option to still have it streaming to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. From what I'm seeing, there aren't as many podcast listening apps as you might see on other platforms that are specifically for podcasts. But that's okay if you're someone who's wanting to really focus on Substack and getting your listeners emails first and foremost. If that's your goal, then you might want to just stick with that. It also allows you to have space to have free versus paid content. And I think this can really be a game changer for podcast hosts who are looking to monetize their podcast in some way, whether that is community space, whether you can put your chat behind a paywall, you can put past episodes behind a paywall. You get to decide what that looks like. You can also have ad-free episodes that are just for your paid community, or even have space where you have bonus episodes that are specifically for your paid community, right? The limit is endless with what you can do. But what I love about this, again, is those emails. You're not just seeing a number, a download number, and a location on your podcast hosting platform. You have actual ownership over your data, over who it is that you're talking to. And I think that this is a really critical business advantage, especially if you are someone who's wanting to make the most of your content and maybe grow your business or whatever that might look like, your thought leadership or your passive income. Lots of different options here. Another benefit of Substack is that micro community. Substack allows you to have deeper connections with your subscribers. There's a chat feature where you can discuss certain topics that maybe don't make the final podcast cut. You can give subscribers early access to upcoming episodes. They can communicate in the chat there. You can let your community vote on future episodes or which episodes might be coming up next, or maybe even questions that you're going to be asking your guests. There's a lot of different elements here that you can definitely utilize. Now, a lot of these can be used for those who already have a podcast. But again, I'm thinking specifically around people who are starting a podcast who want to consider Substack as an option for them. Now, for my folks who have podcasts, finally, I know, so many minutes into this. For my folks who have podcasts already, this is quite an interesting option. So what I did was I went into my We Read Smut Substack. I went as if I was going to create a podcast episode, went to the settings, went to add podcast, and then went through the option of I already have a podcast, I have an RSS feed, and I connected it. Now, what that did, and I had the option to move my podcast the whole way over, not something I'm interested in doing at this time. But what it did was it allowed me to have all of my past podcast episodes show up as blog posts or articles with a listening bar at the top so people can listen to the podcast right there on Substack. All the show notes are there, all the links are there, and there's space for comments and communication. That is a game changer, especially for a platform. And yes, you can do this on your website. You can do this on all these other places. But I don't know about you, but I'm not getting 15,000 subscribers from my website because Google, because SEO, because the internet, right? But Substack has given me this platform and given me these subscribers, just pushed people to my content who have these aligned interests. I think it makes sense that I let them know, hey, did you know I have a podcast? Here are all of these episodes that you can check out. So now on my homepage, there's a We Read Smut podcast tab that people can go to. They can check out all past episodes. But even beyond that, if I go to just my articles or just the blog posts, all of those episodes are showing up. And I really think that this is going to help people who are maybe already using Substack, have their podcast hosted separately, but want to engage with their audience, want to let their audience know, hey, I have this podcast, you should check it out, whatever that might look like, to take that communication, to take that relationship a step further. It was very easy to do. I'll have links for it in the show notes so you can see what mine looks like. But for the most part, I would highly recommend doing this, especially if you are someone who is already utilizing Substack and wanted to take it to the next level. Now, as you can hear, I'm not going to be moving my podcast all the way over to Substack. That is not something I'm interested in doing. Right now, my RSS is connected and Substack will get any new episodes that I record and upload to Buzzsprout. And I think that's a win-win all around. So I'm not too worried about making that full transition at this time. If you're someone like me who wanted to kind of move away from those anonymous directories or those anonymous download numbers and actually capture listener emails in a strategic way, then this might be an option for you. If you want to create predictable revenue with a community model, then Substack might be for you too. Right? There's so many different options here all around for anyone who's interested in it. If you are someone who is thinking about maybe how could you monetize your podcast, start writing down a few ideas, just a few, 2 to 3 ideas that you might have on how you could encourage your audience to spend $4 a month or $40 a year, something easy and simple. Maybe it's bonus episodes. Maybe it's episodes early instead of whenever that release schedule is. Maybe it's a community space, whatever that might look like that your audience would be interested in and is interested in paying for. If you need more support around this and you're considering Substack, but you're not really sure, you want to know more about how I'm utilizing it, you can head on over to helpmypod.com, book a strategy session. Let's talk. Let's talk about your goals, talk about what you're trying to achieve with your podcast. And maybe I will have some ideas on how you can utilize Substack or other platforms to make the most of your podcast. All right. Until next time, happy podcasting.